800-405-2561. 800-405-2561. That's 800-405-2561.
Welcome in to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube if you want to see the faces behind the voices. I am your host, Chhelsa Messinger. You can find me on Twitter every day at Chelsa Messinger. It's my name, it's my handle, and I always appreciate your feedback if it's nice and respectful and on topic. Today is Friday, November the 8th, and we've got a packed slate of football for this Friday afternoon, starting with college football with Chip Chirimbes. We're doing Wyoming, Boise State, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Clemson, NC State. As you might know, if you watch the show, I am an NC State alum, and it's our homecoming this week. And we get to play Clemson. Oh, what luck. Should be fun. Clemson favored in that one by 34 or 33 and a half, depending on where you get it. That's a big number to cover. We'll dive into that number when we talk about college football. And then we've got a ton of NFL on the schedule, starting with some in-depth analysis on Seahawks 49ers, Giants Jets. Woof. I don't know if I want to talk about that one. What a dumpster fire. And then Dolphins Colts. The Dolphins are coming off their first win of the season. Can they get any more momentum against the Colts? I don't think so, but they are getting some points in that one. And then finally, NFL rapid fire, where we go down the line with a ton of NFL games and we give you a ton of picks for your viewing and listening pleasure. Last night, we saw the Chargers and the Raiders squaring off. Raiders won it 26-24, and it was really nice to see the Raiders get a win in front of their home crowd. You would have thought they won the Super Bowl, the way John Gruden was shaking fans' hands after the game. Oh, man. Those fans are incredible. The disguises and the costumes that they wear. It was a sloppy game, a ton of penalties. Phillip Rivers was throwing the ball around, just throwing up floaters. He got intercepted a lot. I don't think either team really deserved to win, but somebody's got to win, I guess. All right, after the break, we're starting off hot with college football on Picks and Parlays.
Staples is more than a place you go to buy a new PC. It's where an associate helped me find the latest tech I needed to work smarter, not harder. Where I got a protection plan plus 24/7 tech support that keeps me connected. And where I increased my productivity for a lot less than what I thought I'd spend.
Right now at Staples, you can save up to $300 on the latest PCs. Staples, for your business tech and beyond. In-store only. Ends 11/2/19 while supplies last. Exclusions apply.
Hey,
Bench, what are you doing?
I'm rubbing my blue emu on.
Well, you ready to go fishing?
Fishing?
You said we were going fishing this morning.
I have 10 Gold Glove awards.
Here we go again.
Johnny Bench doesn't go fishing.
Yeah, I know.
Johnny Bench goes catching. Blue Emu supports healthy muscles and joints. Blue Emu. It works fast and you won't stink. Available at nationwide retailers and Amazon.
It has been said that everyone has a book in them. But do you have the time or the ability to write your book? Maybe you picked up some skills or had a life experience that you want to pass on in the form of a book to help others. Maybe you want to leave an autobiography for your family. Or maybe you've built a successful business and you want to share your story. At Dorrance Publishing Company, we have professional writers who can help turn your book idea into a finished manuscript quickly and affordably. A Dorrance ghostwriter can provide as much or as little help as you need to complete your book. You'll work directly with your ghostwriter to finish your book faster than you ever could on your own. It's easy to become a published author. Call Dorrance now to learn more. 800-485-6003. 800-485-6003. 800-485-6003. Call right now. That number is 800-485-6003.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip, or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first-class tickets.
855-325-1780. 855-325-1780. That's 855-325-1780.
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on this glorious Friday afternoon. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. You can hit me up on Twitter at Chelsa Messinger. It's my name, it's my handle, and I always like your comments and memes. Send them my way. Right now, we're diving into some college football with Chip Chirimbes. Chip, first off, explain your tie. Well, got to know about it.
You just got to stay colorful, I guess. It's a matter of the seasons, you know. Out here now, it's a little late, but the leaves do change colors a little later in the year out here. I imagine the great fall in the New England area, and the trees have lost their leaves, so I'm just trying to replenish it a little bit, that's all.
Oh, that was nice and calming. I feel like I'm listening to NPR. All right, so let's get things revved and ready to rumble when it comes to this college football weekend. Let's start with Wyoming and Boise State. Boise State favored in this one at -14. The over-under is 48. Wyoming is 6-2, 5-3 against the spread. Boise is 7-1, 5-3 against the number, and 4-0 at home. Which team do you like in this one, or what's the play?
Well, you know, Wyoming has been able to post 6 wins and eight opportunities this year. And they've done it virtually with no quarterbacking. Sean Chambers is done. He's out. They bring in Tyler Vander Waal. Tyler Vander Waal. Yes. Now, Tyler Vander Waal just doesn't throw the ball all that well. He's a great runner, which adds compliments to what they already do. But 46% completions last year when he did play. He's 4 of 16 in the one game that he played so far this season. But this Wyoming team is a lot better than people realize up front because they've got great running backs. And you expect Tyler, their new quarterback, to be doing a good portion of the running. They've gone 5-1 at Boise on this crazy field. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but it is like to see it in person. It is just as horrifying it is to watch it on television. But Boise is 12-1 all-time in the series. They're 6-1 at home against this team, or at least 6-1 in Boise this year against the number. And their quarterback, Hank Bachmeier, he returns. Last week he came back. The road team in the series is 8-2, and I think I'm going to let that be the key factor. 14 is an awful big number for a team that is 6-2, and it is a conference game. Wyoming is 3-1, Boise is 4-0. A wild upset here would put the Cowboys into a tie, but I don't think it can happen. But I think the points are generous, and I may take them.
All right, let's go to the SEC next. Tennessee, Kentucky. Kentucky is favored in this one, -1. But I've seen both teams favored. It depends on the site. This line has moved some. It's shifted a little bit. Right now I'm seeing the total at 42. Do you have Kentucky favored in this one?
I see Kentucky at 1. It did move, I think, at one time to Tennessee, and Kentucky did open 2.5, like you had mentioned. But the big SEC game on Saturday is between Alabama and LSU, and that is my SEC game of the year. This is going to be sold individually on picksandparlays.net. You realize that I am 16-5 in the last 21 college releases, and this is the biggest game of the year in the SEC. LSU, Alabama, log on, follow by links, and become a big winner. Now this game here, another SEC matchup, is very interesting because the history between these two is incredible, in as much as Tennessee, Chelsea has won 34 of the last 36 meetings. And that is like an incredible run. They're 80-25 and 9, and this is the 115th meeting between these two schools. And of course, Tennessee has had a dominating effect in this series, but they've only played 2 games on the road. They've played 7 games at home so far this season, and they're going to go play a Kentucky team with a quarterback now that started out as a receiver, and his name is Lynn Bowden Jr. And Lynn Bowden Jr. is their top running back, running for 499 yards in the last 3 games. So this Wildcat attack is a ground game. Lynn hasn't thrown very well. He's only completed 40% of his passes. You're going to expect Kentucky to run the ball, and I think the Wildcats can run it against this Tennessee team, which is certainly not up to snuff. The Volunteers haven't been one of the top 10 or top 25 teams in almost a decade now, and I think that the Wildcats, I mean, you want to talk about revenge. People have double and triple revenge. This team's lost 34 out of 36. I think Kentucky finally, as a favorite, comes up the winner.
I will say Tennessee is trending upwards. They've won 3 of their last 4, including 2 SEC wins. And at the start of the season, that didn't look possible. They looked absolutely terrible. They were losing all these close games. But Jeremy Pruitt, he's figured something out. They're at least winning games. And they've covered in 4 straight. So they're pretty good against the number.
They've gone 6-1 in the last 7 meetings against Kentucky here, and Tennessee, like you said, is on an upward trend. And they were just so bad for so long. And they have to be able to get quality athletes there. Let's face it, this still is the SEC. This is the University of Tennessee, and they just haven't been flourishing down there in recent seasons. But like you said, I think they've hit bottom, and they're on their way up right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee wins this game. I mean, they've got the pedigree against this Kentucky team. But I think in this situation, with Kentucky being the favorite and maybe going off the dog by game time, they're the side.
And sometimes when these numbers are so close, it's basically a pick'em. Let's move on to a game that is not a pick'em. Clemson, NC State. Clemson favored by 33 is the number I have, and the total sits at 54. Clemson, of course, is 9-0, 6-3 against the number. And of course, the Tigers will certainly have some motivation this week as they were left out of the college football top 4. Dabo Swinney is probably not happy about that. So I think the Tigers are going to be fired up, and they get an NC State team that, oh, by the way, lost by 34 points to Wake Forest last week. What do we think about this one?
Well, I'd hate to have to play against your alma mater, especially on homecoming weekend, Chelsea. I just can't do it.
I take no offense.
And I mentioned to you earlier that, and earlier shows, that Clemson can win every game by 1 point. And it's really not going to make any difference as long as they win that game. And being out of the top 4 right now doesn't mean anything. We have 2 teams undefeated in the Big Ten, Penn State and Minnesota, and they're going to knock each other off. And then in the SEC, of course, you have LSU and Alabama playing each other this week, and there's going to be other losses added to these teams. So I don't think Clemson's too concerned with the fact that they're not in there, and I think a lot of people are going to overreact and going to say they're going to look to try and rout this team. But, they've seen what the Wolfpack are. They looked at them last week, absolutely atrocious against Wake Forest. They have a freshman quarterback running the show now. He's their 3rd quarterback this year, the poor Wolfpack. Devin Leary's running the show, and he has had 1 start after they have lost their first 2 starting quarterbacks. 44-10 to Wake Forest last week. Their secondary is totally beat up, but this is homecoming. People show up. People come here to play big. I think Clemson Tigers may be a little distracted. Ohio State is a 42-point favorite. Clemson's only a 33, 34-point favorite. They're thinking that NC State's going to be able to keep this a little bit closer. But, this Clemson team, Chelsea, they're 13-6 in their last 19 on the road, 8-1 in their last 9 on the road overall as well. And last season they defeated the Wolfpack 41-7. If they do that again this week, they'll cover. But I don't know if they can get there. I think the Wolfpack are going to come and give it everything they have. Clemson's number 4 in the nation on defense, but because it's homecoming and it's because it's your alma mater, we're going to go with the Wolfpack.
Well, I went there, and I don't have any faith in NC State, if that tells you anything. If I didn't like a big number to cover, to almost look at an over here. or if you get to bet team totals, I think Clemson's going to score a lot of points because NC State ranks 91st in pass defense. And Trevor Lawrence, I think he needs to prove something here. Well,
he's had 8 interceptions, and that secondary of the Wolfpack is very vulnerable right now. They've had numerous injuries to their secondary. But the big game we have to be concerned with, once again, is going to be LSU and Alabama. And don't miss out on this guaranteed play on Picks and Parlays, Chip Chirimbes' SEC Game of the Year. There you have it.
All right. Thanks, as always, Chip, for joining us. And, man, I think I'm going to go against you on the NC State play, even though I went there. So even if I lose, you know what, maybe NC State will put up some kind of showing, and that'll be a nice consolation prize.
Sure.
But that's kind of, you know, what you deal with when you bet on teams that you're fans of. Right after the break, we're talking NFL football, including my Titans. And if I bet on them, they've been a tough team to bet on this year. So stick with us after the break on Picks and Parlays.
moneynow100.com and got the $5,000 I needed deposited in my account the next business day. If you need money for any reason, help is here. Go to moneynow100.com and get the money you need. Need to pay off credit card debt? Go to moneynow100.com. Need your car repaired? Need home improvement money? Visit moneynow100.com. If you need fast cash for any reason, go to moneynow100.com. Good, bad, or no credit at all. Go to moneynow100.com. You could get up to $5,000 as soon as the next business day. Go to moneynow100.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Type in the address bar moneynow100.com. That's moneynow, the number 100.com.
This is an urgent health notice for all residents suffering from back, neck, knee, and wrist pain. You may qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you, but the deadline is fast approaching. Simply call the Health Alert Hotline now.
You heard right. You may qualify for a pain-relieving back, neck, knee, or wrist brace. These items may even be covered by Medicare or your private insurance. The Health Alert Hotline is your brace company. These specialized braces have been tested for pain relief. Call us toll-free right now to determine your eligibility and to learn how to use your private insurance or Medicare to minimize your out-of-pocket cost. Don't wait. If the deadline passes, you may lose your opportunity to get a pain-relieving back, neck, knee, or wrist brace at little or no cost to you.
800-430-9571. 800-430-9571. 800-430-9571. That's 800-430-9571. Do you use the blue pill to charge your sex life? Have you been thinking about trying the blue pill? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for the other pills, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pill delivers the exact same results for less than $3. We'll do the math for you. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. Want more? We'll give you 40 blue pills or 40 yellow pills for $99 and add 4 more pills free. You save more than $500. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what to do next. You need to call and get your 44 pills for just $99. Stop overpaying for the other blue pills. Call us and start saving a ton of money for the exact same results. Ordering is fast and easy with your pills delivered to your door in a non-marked package. 800-223-0992. 800-223-0992. 800-223-0992. That's 800-223-0992.
Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube if you're trying to tune in that way. If you search Picks and Parlays on any of those social media platforms, we're really easy to find, usually the first thing that pops up. I'm your host, Chelsa Messinger. I'm on Twitter, at Chelsa Messinger. If you want to give me a shout right now, we've got NFL out the wazoo. We've got plenty of games to get to in these final 2 segments, and we're starting off with some in-depth looks We've got Tony T joining us. Hello, Tony.
Good afternoon, Chelsea. Yes, so we're looking forward to the NFL week number 10. And of course, if you've been following the news out here, we're hearing about some bitter cold temperatures in the Midwest and East for the next couple of days. But looks like a little bit of relief there for Sunday's NFL. Still be cold in some of those parts, Chelsea, but not as bitter cold that they're seeing here on Friday and Saturday.
So what does that mean when you're betting games? Does that play to the under, the over, and teams, I guess, that play better in the cold? What do you take away from that?
Yeah, one thing I look at is the wind. Wind will definitely impact the passing game, and definitely you'll see the lines. A lot of times when there's wind in the forecast, those totals could move 5, 6, up to 7 points. I've seen it happen a lot in the NFL. And also you look at the teams that like to run the football, and of course you got to worry about those West Coast teams, especially in the climates like in LA, Miami, when they go into those cold weathers. You know, you go back in the day when the Dolphins would have to go up to Buffalo or New England in the bitter cold. They don't do very well. Tampa Bay was a team that for a long time had a poor record when they played in temperatures below 40 degrees. And of course, we all remember what the Rams did last year against the Bears. Jared Goff looked lost in that cold weather against the Bears. So, you know, there's things you got to keep an eye on. Some of these teams that play in these really good climates, when they get up in that cold weather, they don't seem to perform just as well.
For sure, and always something you need to keep an eye on if you want to be an educated bettor. Let's start off today's segment with the Seahawks 49ers. This is a Monday night game, a big matchup in the NFC West. The 49ers are favored by 6 in this one. The total is 47. Seahawks are 7-2, 4-5 against the number. The 49ers, of course, are undefeated, but 5-3 against the spread. Just looking at this, 6 seems like a lot of points to give the Seahawks. Agree or disagree?
You know, at first glance it did, but when you kind of scrub the numbers, you kind of look at the Seahawks and you got to be a little concerned about them. My concern with the Seahawks has been the defense. We talked about it last week when we covered that game against Tampa Bay. That was really a bad beat if you were on the Buccaneers. But looking at the 49ers here, short week here after their game against Arizona, they got out of that game. And, you know, their offense at home has been really strong. You look at the home road splits for the 49ers, 423 yards average there, 225 on the ground, 5.5 yards a carry, and they put up 35 points in their home stadium. And they seem to play off the emotion of the crowd in a primetime game against Seattle here. I think the crowd will be a big part of this one. They've been solid defensively, and of course, looking at the Seattle side, again, back to what we said last week. I don't think this is a very good Seahawks defense. They've allowed over 400 yards of offense in 4 of their past 5 games. And of course, running back Chris Carson is carrying a heavy load. I remember talking about the Seahawks during the preseason and worried that Mike Davis was no longer there. I didn't think Rashad Penny had the body to withstand the carries, and he's not. He's not being used a lot. Too much load here for Chris Carson on the ground. I think there's an issue there. But again, I know you've got Russell Wilson in this situation, but I think this game can get out of hand because of the Seahawks defense. And I would definitely lay the points here with San Francisco.
I definitely see the Seahawks giving up some points in this one, but the matchup that I'm really interested in is the 49ers pass rush against Russell Wilson, because the pass rush for the 49ers has been very, very fearsome for other opponents. But I think Russell, when he's out of the pocket, he performs actually pretty well. So I'm wondering if the Seahawks will still be able to put up some points on the 49ers.
Yeah, and that's the key. Is the thing about it is when you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson, you want to keep him in the pocket. You want to have good contain. And I think when you look at Bosa and their defensive ends for the 49ers, I think they're smart enough to know that you don't want to get Russell Wilson out of the pocket. You want him in the pocket, bring some pressure up the middle. And you need the players to do that. And I think because that 49ers front four is so good, I think they'll be able to do that, create down and distance here for Seattle in this situation. Of course, dealing with that home crowd, I think it'll definitely be an issue here. And I just don't believe that Seahawks will be able to keep up with the scoring from this 49ers team.
Right. All right. So let's move on to another game that probably will not be as good for the viewers. I would assume the Giants and the Jets. What a game. The Giants are favored in this one, -3. The total is 44.5. The Giants are 2-7, 3-6 against the spread. The Jets are 1-7 and 2-6 against the spread. The Jets just lost to the Dolphins. And the Giants, well, the issue has been Danny Dimes. Can he hold on to the football? He leads the NFL in giveaways, whether it's fumbles or interceptions. So Who do you trust in this game?
Well, I don't trust any of these teams, to be honest with you. But that's why I'm looking at a total in this one. I look again. We talked about the weather. It looks like it'll be about the 40s, which is okay in that arena, in that stadium, and for these players who play in New Jersey. So I'm going to go over the total of 44.5. And we know the Giants' defense has been really bad. Look at their past 3 games, giving up nearly 32 points a contest, 69% completion rates. Things should be easier for Sam Darnold to operate against this Giants defense to get points. The Jets defense, they're showing signs of cracking. You go back and look at the past 3 games, they're giving up 264 passing yards, 67% completion rates, 29 points a game. The Jets defense, they sit 29th in the red zone, and I think Giants should have success there. And of course, New York did, in a recent game, manage to get 26 points on the Lions, a bad defense there. So I think we're going to see here a situation here, Chelsea, where the defenses are poor. It's going to make the offensive look a little better for both sides, and you're going to get the over 44.5.
Right. I think if there's ever a time for a breakout game for either of these quarterbacks, it would probably be this one. Just as you mentioned, both these defenses have a lot of holes. They've had injuries throughout the season. Any other factors you're looking at? Because the running back matchup is actually kind of interesting. Saquon Barkley, Le'Veon Bell. Sometimes when you watch Barkley go down the field and make these incredible plays, and then Daniel Jones just coughs it up, and you feel really bad for Barkley. But it is, they do have him. He's a good weapon. And do you see him running for a lot of yards in this one?
Yeah, I see Barkley with a bounce back. Remember, he had a really bad game in that Cowboy game. We did not produce. And again, I think what's going to happen here is you're going to see some big plays here for the Giants' upfield throws. And I think what's going to happen is, the Jets are going to be looking pass, and then you kind of sneak in a few run games. I think you're going to see some big plays here on the ground for both running backs, because it's the defense is, you want to get them a little off balance, because there's going to be a lot of passing in this game because of you want to go after the weaknesses of these secondaries. And of course, that does open up plays on the ground, because when you got these linebackers deep in coverage, they don't look for the run, and here comes the run at you. And again, Barkley, we'll see, space, and you get Barkley and Bell in space, they'll be able to create here against these poor tackling teams. So yeah, I think I definitely can see a good games here for the backs for both of them.
In these games between teams that you, I guess, can't trust is how we'll phrase it, when the spread's pretty tight, almost like we saw last night. I didn't even want to touch that game because the Raiders and the Chargers are 2 teams I couldn't trust, and the line was so close. Do you typically stay away from these games when it comes to the spread?
Yeah, I think in this situation, I always look for the total whenever you have a situation like this, and I always look to play it over, because I do believe, the defenses, especially when they're weak, it does give the offense a little time to really improve their game. They're going to, when you go into the game plans, when you look at the film and you're seeing your opponent's defense not playing well, there's a lot of space between receivers and secondary. They're getting fooled a lot in play action. It does give the offense a little confidence in the film room. And of course, these guys are trying to get their stats up. They want to get paid. They know they get paid on their stats. So it does give them confidence, a little bit more focus and practice, knowing, hey, this is the game that, like you said, we can break out on this one, put up some really good stats, and feel better about ourselves.
Right, and the over did hit, I believe, in last night's game. Let's move on to the Dolphins and the Colts. The Colts are favoring this one at minus 11.5. The total is 44. And Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback for the Colts, is a game-time decision, I believe, or he's questionable. If he doesn't go, it's Brian Hoyer. I don't think it matters a whole lot because obviously the Dolphins, not the greatest team ever. But I will say they're 4-0 against the number in their last 4. So who do you like in this one, or what's the play?
Yeah, I like the Dolphins here plus the 11.5. Miami's showing improvement, and we saw that in that game against Buffalo. We talked about that 4 weeks ago, how the defense is starting to doing a better job in their reads, and they've covered 4 straight. And of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick does make the team more competitive than Josh Rosen. It looks like they're going to stick with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and these guys make a lot of money, and Fitzpatrick is definitely looking for a job in the NFL, and it seems like it's like this every year for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Someone picks him up. Right. But defensively, we talked about they've shown better the past 3 games. They're holding opponents to 340 yards, 25 a game. But one thing to note here with the Colts, it's not just about Brissett. T.Y. Hilton is injured, and he's not going to play. And they're also one of their picks, one of their rookie receivers will be out of this game. So if it's Hoyer or if it's Brissett, they're not going to have their top receiver in there, and they're going to have some depth issues there. And of course, we did see the Colts issues with turnovers. Just can't lay double digits here in this one. Either you got Hoyer in there or Brissett. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. So I like the way the Dolphins have looked the last few games here. I'll go ahead and take the points with Miami.
And even if you don't like the Dolphins winning this one, the Colts, every game this season has been decided by 7 points or less. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that their number one target in the passing game, T.Y. Hilton, just can't seem to stay healthy and in the lineup, and that definitely impacts the Colts offense, no doubt.
Right. Always good stuff from Tony T on NFL picks. After the break, we've got NFL Rapid Fire for more NFL picks. If you stick with us after the break, lots of good stuff coming up on this Friday afternoon on Picks and Parlays. Stick with us after the break.
Get to Kohl's this Veterans Day weekend and take an extra 15% off. Save on Scott Living, new at Kohl's. Disney Frozen 2 bedding is just $42.49. And save on a Food Network cookware set, $84.99. Plus, take an extra $10 off your $50 home sale purchase. Plus, get Kohl's Cash this weekend at Kohl's.
Select styles. Offers valid November 7th through 17th. 15% off with promo code SHOP15. Home offer with promo code ENTERTAIN10. Some exclusions apply. See store or kohls.com for details.
Are your carpets filled with memories, as well as stains, odors, and a few other things? The Home Depot makes replacing that carpet easy, with more styles and colors to choose from, and free installation done by licensed local professionals backed for life. Today is the day for Do It, with free carpet installation done right, guaranteed. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. $699 minimum purchase required. For license information, visit homedepot.com/license numbers.
Want to fly somewhere? Looking for cheap flights or cheap tickets? Then call. That's right. Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. Low-cost airlines has all kinds of cheap travel deals. Fly domestically and save up to 75%. You can even fly internationally and save even more. Yes, fly anywhere in the world and save a lot of money on your plane tickets. We'll even save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. So don't book your tickets until you call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels. Call right now for prices so low they can't be published. Travel experts are here 24/7 to help. 800-754-4531. 800-754-4531. 800-754-4531. That's 800-754-4531.
The great thing about facts, they're proven. Like the fact that crude oil contains impurities, or that base oil made from natural gas is 99.5% free of impurities. And the fact that Pennzoil is the first synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. It gives you unbeatable engine protection. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Based on Sequence 4A wear test using SAE 5W30.
iHeartRadio, an app so powerful, it holds 20 million songs from 450,000 artists. Thousands of the best live radio stations, custom stations, and stations created just for you. It's anywhere and it's everywhere. Millions of songs, thousands of stations, one free app. iHeartRadio is that easy. Download the app today or listen online at iHeartRadio.com.
And welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're really easy to find, usually the first thing that pops up. I am your host, Chelsa Messinger. On this Friday afternoon, you can find me on Twitter as well at Chelsa Messinger if you want to drop me a line. Right now, we're diving into even more football because we just can't get enough right now. We're jumping into our NFL Rapid Fire segment where we go down the line with a bunch of NFL games and give you a bunch of picks for a bunch of different games. We've got several people or a couple people joining us, a couple special people. We've got Tony T and Craig Trapp that are going to be our pickers today. Hello, fellas, and let's get cracking because we got a ton of games to get to. Let's start with the Chiefs and the Titans. The Chiefs are favored -6 in this one. Over under is 49.5. The big news, of course, is Patrick Mahomes will be playing, barring any other setbacks. They said that today at practice, that Mahomes will play against the Titans. So tough news for the Titans. The Titans also have Malcolm Butler, their best cornerback, out, as well as Jarrell Casey, their starting defensive tackle. Tony T, let's start with you. Who do you like in this one, or what's the play?
Yeah, I like the Chiefs here at -6. We saw it move up from 4.5 to 6 with the news on Mahomes. Also to note here, Casey did get their edge rusher, Chris Jones, back last week, and he really upgrades that Chiefs defense. So I really like the Chiefs in this one. Of course, Mahomes will be in here. One thing to note with the Chiefs here is they can move the football, move the chains. It'll be really tough for the Titans to keep up with the scoring of KC. Tennessee's offense, 25th on third down. Just too many empty possessions here for Tennessee. I like the Chiefs -6.
Plus, the Titans have not been a team that you can trust. Last week, they had 11 penalties for 99 yards and also, I believe, 3 missed field goals. So not fun for Titans fans. Craig, who do you like in this one?
Well, we apologize for Chelsea here because she's a Titans fan, but you can't trust the Titans. It doesn't matter if Mariota, Tannehill's at quarterback. It doesn't matter. They're both not accurate. They don't take care of the ball. And against a Chiefs team, when you give them extra possessions or short fields, it is a disaster. I love the Chiefs here at -6. Heck, I didn't think they could win last week without Mahomes. Now you get back the best quarterback or most explosive quarterback in the league right now. I think this offense is going to be hitting on all cylinders. Take the Chiefs -6. I think Tony and I, when we're in consensus, it's pretty good, and I like this one a lot.
All right, let's move on to another game. Speaking of disappointment, the Falcons have not been a team that have been fun to root for if you're from Atlanta. Apologies to them. Falcons Saints this week. Saints favored -13.5. Yeah, that's a pretty big number, but the Falcons have been really disappointing. 1-7 on the year, 2-6 against the spread. The over-under is 51. Tony T, what's the play?
All right, I like this play a lot, Chelsea. You can get it right now. It's a premium play I have right now posted over at picksandparlays.net.
And some other news, Matt Ryan will start at quarterback. He has been nursing an ankle injury, but he will play this week. Good news for the Falcons, I suppose, but the problem is their defense is allowing 31 points per game. Not great when you're facing the Saints. Craig, what's your take?
Well, I think this one, obviously I think the Saints win this one, but these rivalry games, which this Falcons-Saints games are always closer than what you think. Also, when the Panthers, those three, when they play each other, seem to always be closer, these divisional rivalry games. I think if I was going to play the side, I would play the Falcons, but I think the stronger play is the total here. I just like the under here. I just think the Falcons continue to turn the ball over, and that spells big trouble against a Saints team that can really control the clock and control the ball now. Their ability to run and pass is a problem. And I think the under 51, I think this is more like a 30-20 type game, 27-17 type. Both of those get us well under this total as the Saints win. But I don't think they cover, but I think the stronger play is on the under.
All right, moving on to the Bucks and the Cardinals. This one is in Tampa Bay. The Bucks are favored -4.5. The total is 52. The Cardinals are 3-5-1. But 6-3 against the spread. The Bucks are 2-6 and 2-6 against the spread. Last week, Jameis Winston threw for 335 yards with 2 touchdowns and, more importantly, no interceptions against the Seahawks. Do we see this happening another week in a row? Will we see a Jameis Winston that's good on paper and on the field? Tony T, what do you think?
I think you'll see a pretty good to average Jameis Winston, but I don't think it'll be good enough to cover here. I like the Cardinals here at +4.5. I think the issue here with the Buccaneers has been their pass defense in the back end, playing poorly this year, allowing 293 yards passing, 64% completion rate. But there's one thing to note here about this Cardinals team. They seem to be a really good second half team, and that's when you cover spreads is in the second half. And the Buccaneers, they're not a very good second half team. I think the difference here has just been the adjustments at halftime and and execution by these teams in the second half. And I like this Cardinals direction this Cardinals team is going. course, we saw the Bucks blow a game to Seattle, giving 40 points. They've not covered in their true home games this season, dropping games to the Giants and 49ers. And of course, the Cards have been competitive. 4 covers in their past 5 games. And they covered that game against the 49ers on that Thursday. They have the extra rest. I'm going to go ahead and take the points here with Arizona.
Right, and a Cardinals offense that scored 25 points on a 49ers defense is supposed to be the best in the league. So that's got to be exciting for Cardinals fans. Craig, who do you like in this one?
I also like the Cardinals here. I think the Cardinals are one of those sneaky teams that continue, like Tony said, the second half, they make the adjustments needed. They stay in the game. The ability of their defense to just control the other team and not just let it get away early. And I think that's the key with the Bucks, because the Bucks were one of those teams. Winston, yeah, he didn't throw any interceptions last week, but he had a big fumble late that really cost the Buccaneers what should have been an easy win. They were in control when that happened. I think that's what you have to do against Buccaneers team. Just keep them in front of you. Eventually, they make the big mistake, and I think that's a big problem for the Buccaneers, having to lay more than a field goal here. I just think if the Bucks win, I think it's by a field goal. So let's take the Arizona Cardinals getting 4.5 here.
All right, next up, before the show, we were talking about some of these lines that looked a little suspicious. Some of these spreads look too good to be true almost. This game between the Lions and the Bears are favored -2.5. Should the Bears even be favored in this one? I know they're at home, but it looks fishy to me. The total is 41.5 in this one. Tony T, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, yeah, it does look a little fishy here, but I like the Bears side at -2.5. Of course, the outdoors against the dome team here, it's another angle to look at, but I think there's more hate out there for Mitchell Trubisky than there is for the Lions defense. And we got to tell you right now, the Bears have covered 4 of their past 5 against the Lions. They did have success moving the football in the Lions defense last season. Of course, Detroit now has lost 4 of 5 after that loss to Oakland, giving up 31 points. But their past 3 games, the Lions defense allowing 441 yards, 302 yards in the passing game, 68% completion rate. That makes Mitch Trubisky, things will be a little bit easier for him. And of course, we know they've had their issues, but again, they're facing Detroit defense, and I'll go ahead and lay this short number with the Bears.
Man, I don't know. This is a Bears offense that had 9 total yards of offense in the first half against the Eagles. Craig, are you trusting the Bears in this one?
No, I'm on the other side here. I just think the Lions are, yes, their defense is bad, but the Raiders, let's remember, they're coming off a win on Thursday night. The Raiders have looked a little better as the season has gone on. John Gruden's really got them turned around. The Lions at least are putting up points. The Bears, I just don't trust Mitchell Trubisky in this offense. I mean, they're so one-dimensional. They have to run the ball to win. Everybody knows it. The Lions seem to be able to stop the run when they need to, but, man, they're not very good against a good pass team. But this is not a good passing offense in the Bears. So I'm going to take the number with the Detroit Lions +2.5 in what should be an ugly game in divisional rivalry here.
Moving on to the frozen tundra of Green Bay. Before the show, or last segment, Tony T and I were talking about weather being an issue in this one. It's supposed to be 35 degrees for the Packers and the Panthers this weekend. The total is 47. The Packers are favored by 5 in this one. Tony T, how are we leaning?
I'm going to go here with Carolina Panthers +5.5. Weather's going to warm up to 35. At least it's not in the teens or the 20s. That's when I get a little worried about weather. But if you're in the mid 30s, it's okay for playing football. We did see that offensive struggle by the Packers against LA. And you know what? Carolina has all that on tape. They may duplicate it. They may have seen something on that offensive line here. They may be able to get some pressure here on Aaron Rodgers. And we know the Carolina offense is better under Kyle Allen. We're not going to have Cam Newton on the sidelines. He's on the IR. They said he will not be on the sidelines, so no distractions there from Newton whatsoever. Of course, the Panthers look great in the red zone. You got that Christian McCaffrey. It helps you in the red zone. You got that run-pass option there. And, I've got to look here at the Panthers. They've won 5 of 6 with Allen under center. Green Bay lower third in the league offensively on third down. I'm going to take the points here with Carolina +5.5.
I think the issue is if the Packers can stop Christian McCaffrey, because I think everyone and their mom knows that Christian McCaffrey is going to be involved in most of the plays for the Panthers. If you watch their games, he's their entire offense, but everybody knows that, and they still can't stop him. So I don't know. Craig, what do you think?
Well, this is my top total of the month going in NFL action. My total's been really good. I do think on the side, though, if I look to the side, I think I would be on Carolina as well. I mean, Carolina, since Cam Newton went down, have been money for bettors. I think that continues this week. And I think the Packers offense, I don't think that was a 1 week issue. I think you're going to see a little bit of carryover this week. And I think this Panthers defense will have an answer there. But I do say my top play, get over at Picks and Parlays done as the top total of the month in the NFL.
All right, next up, we've got the LA Rams and the Steelers. The Rams are favored in this one at -3.5. The over-under is 43.5. The Rams 5-3, but 6-2 against the number. Steelers 4-4, 4-3-1 against the spread. Tony T, thoughts on this one, and who do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers plus the points here. They've won 3 straight, covered 5 of their past 6 after that win against Indy. One thing that no one's hardly talking about is the improvement of the Steelers defense. They played very well past 3 games, holding teams to 302 yards, 3.7 yards on the ground. And we know the Rams have had their struggles running the football. Now they're traveling to a cold weather city. Now, granted, it's not going to be in 20 or in the teens. It'll probably be in the 30s. There may be some wind in there. And I just remember back to last year when we saw Jared Goff on the road against the Bears, how he did not handle that cold weather situation very well. It's going to be a late afternoon start. So with this daylight savings time, we'll probably be around sunset around the second quarter. That'll make it a lot more chillier. And I will go ahead and take the points here with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Although I don't think the Steelers defense is quite to the level of the Bears defense that we saw last year. Craig, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side here. I like the Rams, and the reason is I think a lot of people get carried away sometimes with a win like last week. Yes, they beat the Colts, but the Colts missed a field goal that would have won the game. They missed an extra point. They missed a 2-point conversion. They threw a pick 6 right down in the red zone. So, I mean, you had a lot of hidden points there that really the Colts dominated that game if you look at the stats. Now, granted, you do what you do, and the Steelers defense has at least kept them in games. I just think the Rams are better on both sides of the ball, more consistent on offense. Obviously, you're not on your second string quarterback, and I like the Rams and Goff to take the win on the road here. We'll lay the 3.5. I know that extra hook's a little bit of a worry, but I'll do it anyway here. The Rams -3.5 is my bet.
All right, 1 minute left on the clock. Cowboys, Vikings. Cowboys favored by 3. Total is 48. Tony T, who do you like?
I like the Cowboys -3. Huge injuries for the Vikings here. Thielen, their receiver, out. Their nose tackle out. And the Cowboys offense averaging 483 yards at home, 68% completion rate for Dak. I will take the Cowboys -3.
Craig, who you got?
I'm on the Cowboys as well. I don't think they're going to need the black cat curse that they got against the Giants last time out. I think the Cowboys at home continue the hot offensive play that we saw the last 2.5 quarters. Like the Cowboys -3 as well to finish up this week's Rapid Fire.
All right. Thank you both for joining us. That's our Rapid Fire.
Not too long ago, it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank, didn't it? For a vacation or a new car. But today, withdrawing your own cash has become risky. Pat Boone here for Swiss
You want me to help?
According to the Secret War, a new Swiss America white paper, I learned that all banks are now required to spy on you and me for the government, and then report any financial behavior deemed suspicious or unusual. You must read The Secret War. It's free. Truth is, I believe the government's new war against cash is really a war against us all. But the secret is now out. So please, get and read The Secret War.
Pick up your phone and call right now. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. Once again, that's 800-932-5517.
We paid less for our Craftmatic today than we did 20 years ago.
If you're still searching for the perfect solution to a good night's sleep, call now for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. And then decide when you see how little they cost. Rated #1 by consumers nationwide on Consumer Affairs Craftmatic beds come in all mattress types, including cool gel memory foam for up to 50% less than today's leading memory foam brand. Enjoy temporary relief of low back pain, poor circulation, nighttime heartburn, mild arthritis. You'll sleep better in a Craftmatic adjustable bed. So if you're still searching for the perfect solution to a good night's sleep, call now for prices and information, and then decide. When you see how little they cost, discover Craftmatic for less, up to 50% less than today's leading memory foam brand.
Call 1-800-371-9608. That's 1-800-371-9608. Call 1-800-371-9608. Call now.
Attention business owners. Are you struggling while waiting for your customers to pay on their net 30, 60, or 90-day invoices? Can't get a business loan? Have no equity? Bad credit? Or maybe no credit at all? Then you need to call AmeriFactors right now. AmeriFactors will give you cash for your invoices and there's nothing to pay back. We simply buy your account receivables, and if those clients don't pay on the invoices, we take the loss. We give you funds based on your account receivables, not your credit, and 98% of all applicants are approved. It's that simple. With AmeriFactors, there's no more waiting for your customers to pay. We give you the funds up front, then we wait for your customers to pay us. Fund your business today. Call AmeriFactors right now.
800-847-1183, 800-847-1183, 800-847-1183. That's 800-847-1183.
Welcome back to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to tune in that way, just search Picks and Parlays on any of your favorite social media platforms. I'm your host, Chelsea Messinger, and we had a jam-packed show today full of football. And don't worry if you weren't writing down notes, if you weren't paying attention, or if you're just now tuning in, we got you covered. We're about to recap all of our picks from today's show, starting with college football. Chip Chirimbes gave us some plays when it came to college football, starting with Boise State. Oh, starting with NC State. He likes the Wolfpack, plus 33 against Clemson. Tennessee at Kentucky, taking Kentucky -1. And then there's that Boise State game, taking Wyoming to cover plus 14. And plus Chip's SEC game of the year is 16-5 over his last 21. You can find it on picksandparlays.net. Moving on to NFL picks. Tony T gave us these. Seahawks 49ers. He likes the 49ers -6. Giants Jets, take the over, 44.5. And then Dolphins Colts, taking the Fins plus 11.5. Moving on to rapid fire picks. Craig Trapp gave us these. Chiefs Titans, taking the Chiefs -6, especially now that Patrick Mahomes will play, they said in that one. Lions Bears, taking the Lions plus 2.5. And Rams Steelers, taking the Rams -3.5. Tony T gave us even more NFL picks. This was in our rapid fire segment. Cardinals Bucks, taking the Cardinals plus 4.5. Panthers Packers, he likes the Panthers plus 5.5, going up to the frozen tundra. And the Rams Steelers, taking the Steelers plus 4. And if you want to get his best play of the week, Falcons Saints is on picksandparlays.net. You can head over to our website for all of your gambling needs. And if there's a certain game, it's probably on there. Until next week, that's all we've got for today's show. Thanks for joining us on Picks and Parlays. Bet, win, repeat. Good luck this weekend.